In the hushed tranquility of our abode, all appeared ordinary at first glance. Yet beneath that facade, a subtle transformation had begun to unfold. What started as a cherished connection between mother and daughter was on the brink of unraveling. In ways I could never have foreseen, on that tranquil afternoon, the house held a serene silence. As I stood by the window, I beheld the final rays of golden sunlight weaving their way through the trees. It had been a long time since I experienced this kind of stillness, the sort that seeps deep into your bones and prompts you to ponder whether everything is as it ought to be. Evelyn returned home for the weekend, marking her first visit since embarking on her new journey in the city. It was not uncommon for her to be absent for extended stretches, particularly given her hectic agenda. Yet, this time, an unmistakable shift lingered in the air, a peculiar energy lingered between us, one that had eluded my awareness until now. It was not merely the passage of time or the transformation she underwent into a woman, taller, stronger, and more self-assured. It was in essence, a profound connection, lingering just out of reach. Woven into the fabric of our exchanges, a subtle unease hung in the atmosphere, an elusive feeling that I couldn't quite identify, reminiscent of the delicate aroma of rain that precedes a tempest. I attempted to brush it aside, redirecting my focus to the kitchen where I was crafting her beloved dish, spaghetti and meatballs. Reminiscent of the days when she was just a child, the comfort of it, the ease, brought a gentle smile to my lips. It brought to mind a time when life was simpler, when our bond remained pure and untainted by the intricacies of maturing. Yet, that fleeting moment slipped away. As I stirred the sauce, the sound of her footsteps echoed softly in the hallway. As she stepped into the kitchen, an aura enveloped the space, surprising me with its intensity. She smiled, yet there was an intriguing depth in the way her gaze held mine. A fleeting spark of something I wasn't prepared to face. "It smells wonderful, Mom," she remarked, leaning against the counter. I nodded, my hands fidgeting as I sought to occupy them. "Just like in the days of yore," I responded, my voice carrying a weight I hadn't meant to convey. She let out a gentle laugh, yet the stillness that ensued carried a certain heaviness. We both sensed it, that silent tension neither of us dared to confront. It lingered in the air, dense and palpable, as though anticipating the moment one of us would shatter the enchantment. "Do you recall the times we spent in the kitchen creating delicious meals side by side?" she inquired, her voice brightening unexpectedly. As though she were attempting to guide us back to familiar shores, a smile graced my lips, a wave of gratitude washing over me for the change in our dialogue. "Indeed, you held the reins when it came to the meatballs." She chuckled once more, and for a fleeting instant, the weight of the world seemed to fade away. In a quiet moment, a mother and daughter sat together, weaving tales of yesteryears, lost in the warmth of cherished memories and the simplicity of days gone by. As dinner unfolded and we gathered around the table, that peculiar energy returned, weaving its way into the atmosphere once more. At first, it was a gentle whisper. The way her eyes lingered on mine just a moment longer than expected. The way she leaned in ever so slightly when reaching for the bread, I attempted to brush it aside, persuading myself otherwise. It was merely a figment of my imagination, a playful trick of the mind. In the end, she was my daughter, my beloved Evelyn. All was well, and there was no cause for concern. But then, just as we were savoring the last bites of dinner, she uttered a phrase that brought me to a standstill. "I've missed this," she murmured, her tone deep and earnest. "Home has been a distant memory, and my heart longs to be with you once more." Once upon a time, in a realm not so far away, there existed a place filled with wonder and intrigue. There was an undeniable cadence in her voice, a gravity that stirred something deep within me, quickening the beat of my heart. I summoned a smile, striving to maintain a cheerful atmosphere. "Oh, how I've longed for your presence, dear one. Time has stretched on endlessly." Yet, the reality was, I found myself at a loss for how to feel. An unsettling feeling brewed within me, a sensation I couldn't quite articulate. It wasn't merely the words she had spoken, but the manner in which she had delivered them, the way her gaze met mine, filled with intensity, focus, and a hint of longing. A chill ran down my spine, yet I swiftly brushed the thought aside. Once the dinner plates were cleared, we gathered to enjoy a film together. I believed it might lighten the atmosphere. As the night unfolded, I caught myself sneaking glances at her more frequently than was perhaps wise. Before my very eyes, she transformed, blossoming into a woman. Her evolution a captivating tale of growth. And yet, there was an unsettling quality to her presence, as if she lingered just out of reach, poised for something unspoken to unfold, drift through us. Yet, I dismissed it, convincing myself it was merely a figment of my imagination. Once upon a time, there was a mother and her daughter, cherishing precious moments together. It seemed there was nothing more to it, or so I believed. The movie came to a close, and as I rose to gather the dishes, I sensed her eyes upon me once more. That same piercing gaze from before. A question lingered in my mind: had the air shifted between us? Or was it merely a figment of my imagination? Though I wished to dismiss it as inconsequential, a quiet whisper within me recognized the reality that lay beneath the surface. A shift had occurred. I simply wasn't prepared to confront it just yet. The morning was enveloped in a stillness, as if the universe paused, anticipating the unfolding of an unseen tale. For an extended period, I found myself lying in bed, gazing up at the ceiling, attempting to cast aside the peculiar emotions that lingered from the night before. Yet it was something that cannot be overlooked. The house exuded a peculiar aura, a palpable heaviness, as if an unseen force bore down upon every corner, enveloping it in an unsettling embrace. With a sense of purpose, I rose from my seat and made my way to the kitchen. Evelyn stood by the window, gazing out at the garden, lost in thought. With a mug of coffee cradled in her hand, she turned to me, her eyes reflecting a world of thoughts, distant and contemplative. I took a deep breath, sensing an unusual flutter in my chest. This was not as it should be, I reminded myself. The way she gazed at me, serene yet intent, stirred a sense of unease within me. As the sun began to rise, I greeted the day with a smile, making my way to the counter to brew my own cup of coffee. "Morning," she replied, her voice gentle yet resolute. She remained still, her eyes fixed on me. I could sense her gaze holding onto me, and it sent a chill racing down my spine. As we lingered in the kitchen, cups of coffee in hand, I endeavored to maintain a cheerful atmosphere, chatting about the little things: your job, the weather, the garden, yak topic a thread in the tapestry of our conversation. Yet, the atmosphere surrounding us was dense, alive with an unspoken energy that eluded my understanding. Each time my gaze fell upon her, I beheld not merely my daughter but a woman in her own right, bold, assured, and an essence that transcends. It was a mistake, I understood that all too well, yet the sensation lingered, much like a shadow stealthily weaving its way into the recesses of my thoughts. We chose to embark on a day of shared experiences. She proposed a stroll, and although a part of me lingered in doubt, I found myself in agreement. I reassured myself that it was just a part of life, that perhaps I was overthinking things. Ultimately, I held the role of her mother. Spending time together was a perfectly fine endeavor. As we embarked on the well-trodden path close to our home, the unspoken tension that had been brewing between us appeared to intensify with each stride we took. The journey began with a gentle ease. We reminisced about days gone by, recalling how she would dash ahead on that familiar path in her childhood, gathering rocks and sticks as if they were precious gems. Yet, even amidst those carefree moments, I sensed something shadowy lurking just beneath the surface. Her eyes would lock onto mine for a heartbeat longer than necessary, or her arm would graze against mine, and with each fleeting moment, my heart raced with anticipation. In the stillness of our journey, we moved quietly. The only sound accompanying us was the soft crunch of our footsteps upon the gravel path. The sun bathed us in warmth, the air around us crisp and invigorating, yet within me, a storm of unease brewed, far from the tranquility that surrounded us. I found myself stealing glances at her, pondering if she sensed it as well. There exists a peculiar attraction between us, an unspoken bond that neither of us dared to confront, yet it lingered, impossible to evade. As we arrived at the clearing atop the hill, a place we had cherished for its breathtaking view of the valley, she paused and faced me, her demeanor shifting to one of unexpected gravity. "Mother," she whispered, her voice barely above a murmur. "I've got something to share with you." My heart raced. I sensed the approaching storm, yet I found myself unprepared for its rival. "What is it?" I inquired, striving to maintain a sense of calm despite the tightness in my throat. She averted her gaze for a brief moment, as though she were on a quest for the perfect words. "There's a sensation stirring within me, an unnameable feeling that eludes my grasp." A heaviness settled in my throat. I longed to urge her to halt, to retract everything before she uttered something irreversible. Yet the words eluded me. "I've been reflecting on our journey," she continued, her voice a soft murmur, "about the shifts that have unfolded between us." The earth trembled subtly under my feet, a whisper of change in the air. This was the moment I had dreaded, the very one I had been striving so fiercely to escape. My heart raced in my ears, and for a fleeting moment, I found myself gasping for air. "It may seem wild," she continued, her gaze fixed on me, "but I can't shake this feeling. I've attempted to dismiss it, to cast it aside, yet it lingers and it refuses to fade." I found myself rooted to the spot, a silence enveloping me, words escaping my lips. I felt the urge to tell her she was mistaken, that this was merely a figment of her imagination. Yet deep down, I found myself questioning everything. The boundary that once defined us had faded, leaving me uncertain about how to mend it. "Evelyn, please, halt." At last, I found the words, my voice quivering with emotion. This isn't how it should be. We can't carry these feelings within us. She stepped closer, her eyes filled with a silent plea. I understand it's not right, yet I find myself at a loss for how to put an end to it. As I gazed upon her, my heart felt heavy, burdened by the pain and confusion reflected in her eyes. This was an unexpected turn of events, something I had never envisioned. How did we arrive at this moment? How did our bond become so intricate, so entwined? I shook my head, striving to dispel the haze of uncertainty that enveloped my mind. We must put an end to this at once, I declared, my voice steady yet gentle. As your mother, I must tell you, this situation is simply unimaginable. I don't want it, Evelyn, I declared, though a curious part of me quietly contested my own words. She averted her gaze, her jaw tight, and the turmoil was etched clearly across her features. I understand, she whispered, her voice a fragile thread, but it's so hard, Mom. I don't know how to make it disappear. My eyes welled with emotion, and I fought to hold back the tears, determined not to let her witness my sorrow. We must discover a path, I declared, my voice trembling with emotion. We must put an end to this before it spirals out of control. She remained silent, her gaze fixed on the sprawling valley beneath her. The stillness that enveloped us was thick, laden with unspoken words and emotions we dared not acknowledge. I felt a deep urge to connect with her, to offer solace, to assure her that all would be well. All right, yet I found myself unable to do so. Not now. Not with this unseen barrier that had abruptly risen between us. After what seemed like an endless stretch of silence, she finally found her voice. Perhaps I ought to return to the city, she murmured, her voice echoing with emptiness. Grant us a moment of solitude. I nodded, though the notion of her departure tugged at my heartstrings. Perhaps that is for the best, I murmured softly. We strolled back to the house in silence, the tension between us heavier than forever. Upon arriving home, I found solace in my bedroom, seeking a moment to reflect and absorb all that had transpired. I could hear Evelyn downstairs, bustling about in the kitchen. Yet I found myself unable to summon the courage to confront her. As I reclined on my bed, my gaze fixed upon the ceiling, a whirlwind of unwanted thoughts swirled through my mind. How had we arrived at this moment? How had something so simple, so pure, transformed into such a tangled web of complexity? Throughout my journey as a mother, I held my head high, believing I had nurtured Evelyn with all the love and care in the world. Yet, a shadow of doubt crept in, making me question if I had faltered in some way along the path. Had I been too near to loving too? What is it that you seek? I was unaware of the answers. I found myself ensnared, caught in a web woven from my deep affection for my daughter and the disquieting emotions that had started to blossom between us. It was never meant to unfold this way. On that night, slumber eluded me. As I lay there, rest eluded me, my thoughts swirling like a tempest, replaying every moment that had unfolded. I found myself revisiting our conversation time and again, seeking clarity, searching for a way to mend what was broken. Yet, the deeper I delved into my thoughts, the more I understood that a simple fix eluded me. At last, fatigue took its toll, and I slipped away into a fitful slumber. Yet, even in the realm of my dreams, the tension between us persisted, a ghostly presence that weighed heavily on my heart, unresolved and ever haunting. The house stood silent as the night descended once more. The familiar creaks in the walls, the soft hum of the fridge, and the ticking of the clock only deepened the silence that had enveloped us. In the aftermath of all that had transpired, we maintained our distance throughout the day, each of us attempting to sidestep the truths we had been reluctant to face. Yet, I understood that the distance separating us was merely a fleeting refuge, and in due time, it would converge upon us once more. In the cozy confines of the living room, I found myself idly flipping through a magazine, its words barely registering in my mind. My thoughts danced in a realm from which I could not break free. A palpable essence lingered within the house, a whisper of her being, though she was absent from the room itself. The essence of her presence hung in the air, a palpable reminder of intimacy that enveloped all around. At that moment, her voice reached my ears. Her footsteps whispered through the air, delicate and uncertain. As if she hesitated on the brink of stepping closer, I remained still, feigning ignorance. Yet my heart raced the instant she entered the room. Mother, may we have a conversation? Her voice held a softness that was different from the norm. Yet it carried an undeniable weight, a challenge that caught me off guard. I shifted my gaze to her, striving to maintain a calm demeanor. Yet the palpable tension that hung in the air was impossible to ignore. I nodded. Yet the words remained unspoken, trapped within me. I set the magazine aside, carefully flattening the pages, as if that small gesture could somehow erase all the troubles that lingered between us. She settled in next to me, uncomfortably close. The atmosphere in the room felt heavy, almost tangible. For a moment, I remained silent, anticipating her to shatter the stillness, wishing that whatever followed wouldn't disturb the delicate balance of composure I had been clinging to. Yet, beneath the surface, I sensed that thread was beginning to unravel. I don't know how to say this, Evelyn began, her voice a fragile thread, barely above a whisper. Our gazes intertwined, and in that moment, I understood. The very truth I had been sidestepping for days on end. It was there in the depth of her gaze, in the way her words hung in the air, weightier than one might expect. What is it, Evelyn? I found the courage to ask, even as my voice quivered more than I had hoped. She averted her gaze for a brief moment, her fingers weaving through her hair as she wrestled with her thoughts, and then, with a gentle sigh, she faced me once more. I can no longer act as if everything remains the same. Something has happened and I find myself at a loss for what to do next. There it was. The truth suspended in the space that separated us. I gulped, feeling an unexpected dryness settle in my mouth. I wished to refute it, to assure her that nothing had shifted, that all remained unchanged between us. Yet, it was not. We were both aware of that. I found myself at a loss for words, feigning ignorance, even as the warmth surged within me. A silent warning of my impending revelation. She shook her head, a spark of frustration igniting in her eyes. You do. You understand precisely what I mean. The walls of the room appeared to constrict around us, and I sensed my breath hitching in my throat. The moment had arrived, and though I wished to avoid this dialogue, it was already beyond my control. We had crossed the threshold of pretense, beyond the moment of retreat. I don't think we should talk about this, I whispered, my voice quivering with uncertainty. We are unable to. Yet, she stood her ground, unwavering. She drew nearer, and I sensed the gentle heat radiating from her form, drawing me closer, a magnetic force that I couldn't resist. Despite the knowledge that I ought to create distance, why can't we? She inquired gently, her gaze probing into my own. Why must we act as if these feelings do not exist? The urgency in her voice reached me, echoing the same turmoil I had been battling to keep at bay within my own heart. My heart raced, and I sensed my resolve faltering, shattering beneath the immense weight of the emotions that had been simmering between us. This was not how it was meant to unfold. It was all wrong. Yet, I could no longer turn a blind eye to it. I found myself at a loss for words, my voice barely escaping my lips. I'm uncertain of the reason. She extended her hand, lingering just inches from mine, as though she were pausing for me to take the next step. I ought to have put an end to it. I ought to have urged her to depart, to ascend the stairs, to turn away. Yet, I chose not to. I can't stop thinking about it, she confessed, her voice trembling with feeling. I have made an effort. Yet, I find myself unable to do so. I took a deep breath, my heart racing within me. I understood her completely, for I had been experiencing the same sensation. The heaviness bearing down on me, stifling my breath. I attempted to cast it aside, to overlook its presence, yet it proved too powerful, too consuming. Evelyn, we can't, I whispered, yet the words echoed emptily in the air. I found it hard to accept their words, even in my own heart. Her hand grazed mine for just an instant, and in that fleeting touch, a wave of warmth coursed through me. A sensation I had been battling for days. I found myself leaning into her, irresistibly drawn to her in a manner that defied explanation, eluding any justification. And then, just as I was beginning to grasp the whirlwind of emotions swirling around me, she kissed me. It began gently, with a hint of hesitation, as if she were uncertain whether I would draw back from her touch. Yet, I chose not to. I was unable to. As her lips met mine, a surge of emotions ignited within me, setting off a whirlwind of sensations. All the feelings I had been holding back surged forth like a powerful tide, overwhelming me with a mix of longing, uncertainty, and yearning. I pressed my lips against hers in return. It's difficult to put into words how everything came to be. In one fleeting moment, we found ourselves on the couch, skirting around the unspoken truth that lingered between us. Then, in an instant, everything we had been suppressing surged forth, a tide of emotions that could not be contained. The kiss swiftly transformed into something deeper, and before I knew it, we were entirely enveloped by one another. In a twist of fate, we ventured beyond the boundaries, embracing every choice that was meant to remain untouched. Not a single word passed between us. The quiet space that lingered between us brimmed with all the unspoken fears we had yet to confront, to confess, all that we had been too fearful to embrace. As we surrendered to that moment, to one another, I realized that there was no turning back. It all unfolded in a whirlwind, a rush of emotions so powerful that when we finally broke free, we were left gasping for air, our hearts racing together in perfect harmony. I gazed at her, thoughts swirling in my head, my body quaking with anticipation. With the dawning awareness of our recent actions, all had transformed. We lingered in a profound hush, each of us caught in the weight of the moment, too awestruck to utter a word, too captivated to shift our positions. The gravity of the recent events enveloped us, wrapping around us like a thick, suffocating shroud. Overwhelming and unavoidable, I averted my gaze from her, unable to face my own reflection. How did we allow this to unfold? I murmured softly. As if the words were meant for my own ears rather than hers, Evelyn remained silent. Once upon a time, there was a remarkable figure known simply as she. She sat there, gazing at the ground, her complexion ashen and weary. The same blend of guilt and confusion that surged within me was etched across her features. A mirror reflecting my own turmoil. We shouldn't have, I stammered, my voice trembling. This is not right. She faced me, her expression heavy with sorrow. I understand. Yet it seems there was no way to halt it, was there? I shook my head, tears stinging my eyes. Alas, we were unable to do so. The weight of our actions hit me like a crashing wave, leaving me with a deep sense of nausea. This was my doing. I ought to have shown more strength. I ought to have put an end to it before it spiraled out of control. Yet, at this moment, retreat was no longer an option. A line has been crossed and nothing will ever be the same again. I believe it's best if you go, I murmured, my voice trembling. It seems the time has come for you to take your leave. Evelyn gazed at me, her eyes shimmering with a deep, aching sorrow. Depart? I nodded, my throat constricted with a swell of feeling. We require some distance, Evelyn. We simply cannot share this moment together like this. For a fleeting instant, she remained still, as if time had paused around her, yet, in that moment, she rose, her shoulders heavy with the weight of surrender. Without uttering a single word, she turned and exited the room, leaving me solitary on the couch, the heaviness of our actions pressing down upon me. As I lingered in that moment, my gaze fixated on the very place she had occupied moments before. A whirlwind of guilt and regret swirled within me. How had we allowed it to reach this point? How had it come to pass? Yet, within the depths of my being, the truth was clear to me. We found ourselves unable to hold back. And now we must face the unfolding consequences of our choices. The morning sun shone brilliantly, creating crisp shadows that danced upon the earth. Yet, within me, a shadow loomed large. I had been striving to weave together a semblance of normalcy. Yet, the essence of normalcy had eluded us the instant we permitted events to spiral beyond our control. I don't know how we got here, I finally said, shattering the stillness, my voice a mere whisper. Evelyn's gaze remained fixed on the horizon. Nor do I, she whispered, her voice soft and devoid of emotion. The strain that lingered between us was not merely rooted in our past actions. It was in the suspense of what might unfold next. Evelyn confessed, her voice quivering just a touch, as she struggled to mask the weight of her thoughts. Once, I believed I had the strength to do it. But alas, I find myself unable. I swallowed, my throat parched. Neither can I admitted. I despised the reality woven into those words. Yet, I found myself unable to weave a falsehood for her or for my own heart. Regardless of its faults, the recollection of our shared moments lingered within me. Tenacious and all-consuming, we are unable to. I paused, caught in the web of my own mind, unable to bring the thought to its conclusion. We simply cannot continue down this path. Evelyn nodded, yet her expression held steady, unyielding. I understand. So, what shall we embark on next? Do you believe it never occurred? A weight settled heavily in my chest at the thought. No, I murmured softly. We may not be able to do that, yet we must seek a path to rise above it. We must, for a long moment. Silence enveloped us, each lost in our own thoughts. The quiet space that lingered between us was akin to a fragile thread, poised to break at any instant. In her eyes, I glimpsed the pain, a reflection of the confusion that echoed within me, and it shattered my soul. This was my doing. I ought to have put an end to it earlier, ought to have shown more strength, ought to have maintained my distance, yet I had not. I'm not sure I can, Evelyn confessed, her voice wavering just a bit. I'm uncertain about how to take the next step forward. Her openness broke something deep within me. She remained my daughter. Yet the fabric of our relationship had transformed in ways that eluded my comprehension. How could I assist her while I was submerged in my own sea of guilt and uncertainty? What path can we take to find healing from this? I believe we need some time apart, I murmured, my voice quivering with emotion. It's a moment to unravel the mysteries, to find clarity in the chaos. Evelyn recoiled, her jaw clenching tightly. Are you suggesting it's time to let go of the past? I shook my head, tears welling up in my eyes, a number that must remain etched in memory. We shall always carry you in our hearts, Evelyn, yet we must find the room to mend. We can no longer dwell beneath this roof with this shadow looming over us. At last, her gaze locked onto mine, and the anguish reflected in her eyes was nearly unbearable. So, you wish for me to depart? The question was heavy, and it struck me in ways I never saw coming. Yet, I understood the words that needed to be spoken. Even if they brought pain, I believe it would be wise for you to return to the city for a time. I murmured, each word tearing at my heart. We must take a step back, Evelyn. It's the only path forward. Evelyn's fists tightened, her expression hardening with frustration, and for a fleeting moment, I wondered if she would unleash her thoughts in a heated debate. Yet, in that moment, she let out a heavy sigh, a sense of defeat washing over her. As she rose from the porch, "Very well," she whispered. "I shall take my leave." The words pierced through me more profoundly than I had anticipated. I wished to convey to her that it wasn't a punishment, that I wasn't leaving her behind. Yet the reality was, I required space just as much as she did with her presence. The air felt heavy, a relentless echo of our past actions hanging between us, suffocating and inescapable. With a rigid demeanor, she declared, "I'll pack my things," her gaze averted from mine. I let her go without a word. I understood that whatever words I uttered would only complicate matters further. There I remained on the porch, eyes fixed on her as she slipped away into the house, attuned to the distant echo of her footsteps, the soft rustle of her movements as she gathered her things. The minutes stretched endlessly, each one dragging on as I sat there, gazing at the garden that Evelyn and I had once nurtured together, back in the days when life felt uncomplicated. At last, she emerged, a duffel bag casually draped over her shoulder. She lingered at the front door, a fleeting moment of uncertainty washing over her before she turned to meet my gaze. In her eyes, there lingered a hint of something profound. Perhaps an unspoken apology or a silent plea that tugged at the heartstrings. Doubt lingered in my mind. "Mother," her voice wavered, and she stepped closer as if there were unspoken words lingering on her lips. Yet, the words eluded me. As I rose to my feet, a tightening sensation gripped my chest. "Evelyn, this isn't forever," I whispered gently. "All we require is a little time." She nodded, yet the pain lingered in her gaze. "I understand," she murmured, "yet I fear the thought of losing you." Emotions surged within me, and I struggled to keep the tears at bay. "I vow you won't be left behind. My word is my bond. As your mother, my love for you is eternal and unwavering. Yet, this is essential for us. We share that in common." As Evelyn approached the door, an unshakable tension enveloped us, thickening the air with unspoken words. Her gaze held mine, brimming with an unspoken inquiry that neither of us had the courage to voice. With a cautious breath, I moved closer, the space that separated us beginning to fade away. My breath caught in my throat, my heart pounding in the stillness. The air thickened, wrapping us in a cocoon of tension as if the world outside had faded away, leaving only the electric connection that pulsed between us, silent yet unmistakable. For a fleeting moment, we remained still, neither of us daring to move, both acutely aware of the magnetic force that had ensnared us. Then, with a quiet urgency that surged within me, I leaned in closer, the air heavy with emotions too potent to contain. Her gaze softened, revealing a flicker of something deeper, something forbidden. Yet neither of us chose to step away. It transcended mere words. An ephemeral and profound connection that we both yearned for. I finally whispered, my voice strained, "Hurry, before Mom returns, daughter." The words sliced through the air, shattering the illusion, yet the fervor remained, echoing in the silence that followed. As she turned to leave, the silence enveloped us, a weightier presence than any sound. And I remained there, rooted in place, trembling, acutely aware that everything had shifted. I stood on the porch, observing as she ignited the engine and eased out of the driveway, the tires crunching on the gravel, the sole sound breaking the tranquility of the morning. And just like that, she vanished into the ether. The silence of the house weighed heavily in the hours that followed, an echo of absence that lingered in every corner. I meandered through the rooms, seeking distraction, yet each nook whispered tales of her, of our shared moments. The silence enveloped me, heavy and suffocating, as if the very air had thickened, making each breath a struggle. As I stepped into the kitchen, I sought solace in the familiar rhythm of cleaning, believing it might offer a momentary escape. Yet, as I wiped the counter, a heavy truth settled in. I was adrift, uncertain of how to navigate the path ahead. How was I meant to mend from something that resonated with such profound wrongness? How could I ever gaze into the mirror again without bearing the burden of our actions? The weight of guilt bore down on me, a relentless force that sought to engulf my very being. Throughout my life, I had treaded with caution, consistently making the right decisions and prioritizing Evelyn above all else. Yet, in a twist of fate, I found myself facing a reality I never anticipated. Everything had unraveled before my eyes, and now I found myself at a loss, unsure of how to mend the fragments scattered around me. Throughout the day, I sought to occupy myself with chores, with anything that might steer my thoughts away from that night, from what we had done. But it proved futile. At last, weariness enveloped me and I drifted into a restless slumber, My dreams painted with visions of Evelyn, of the two of us poised at the brink of a precipice, gazing into the void, uncertain of how to reclaim our footing. As I opened my eyes to the dawn of a new day, the heaviness lingered, an unyielding presence upon my chest. It pressed upon me with the weight of a stone, yet deep within, I understood that I must seek a path ahead, for my sake. For Evelyn's, we were destined to break free from this suffocating darkness. I was uncertain about the duration it would take. Will we ever find a way to mend from this? Or will we simply carry the weight forever? Yet, one truth stood out vividly: we could no longer linger in the same spot. Changes had woven their way into the fabric of our relationship, and whether I embraced it or not, we were compelled to confront that truth.